Hello and welcome to the Mailbag, and you might be hearing an unusual voice for the start of this show. Many of our elder listeners, shall I say, many of our listeners that have been with us for a few years might well remember me hosting this show. They might well remember Matt Jones hosting this show, and he's going to be doing it next week. And before that, what we used to call this show was Paddy's Mailbag, for the obvious reason that it was Postman Pat and named after Paddy Boyland, who's I was going to say no longer with us, like he's passed away. But he's obviously got an amazing career on his hands at the moment with the Athletics. So we miss him on the show, of course. But in regards to the Mailbag, I'm here this week, all because Les hasn't quit, so don't worry, he'll be back, I think, just after the season starts. He's having a break to warm up for the season because he gets some questions that stick in his head for a long, long time. So he's going to have a break for that. I've got Pete McFarlane, I've got Dan Price with me today. You're not Dan Price, are you? I've just got your name wrong, haven't I?
Well, no, it's really weird because one of the questions that I saw in my notifications today was about the Daniel Vain thing. The
Please,
song
that's the opening question. Go on, tell us the answer to that.
And so back in the 90s, in the smouldering heat of Britpop, I was a wonderfully haired, deliciously cheekboned human being who was in a band. And back then, you didn't have your own name. You didn't have your real name. Your real name was crap. Hence Daniel Price, which is my real name. And I was living with a girl in Soho at the time. And I used to wear quite a lot of makeup and my hair was pretty majestic. And I
just
shaved
before you
twice
carry
a
on with
day.
this, Dan, just before you carry on with this. Now, people who obviously on Twitter to give us their questions for this, you put a fantastic picture of me and Les looking quite camp, I should say, to the very least. So I've got to demand that you give us some sort of photo of this, what you're talking about.
I will do, yeah. I'll find you a picture in
Can I interject really quickly, by the way, before you continue? If anyone can hear like panting, it's not because I'm getting excited by the thought of you with your makeup and your long hair. Because I've got my little dog Whiskey Blue next to me, and he's just excited to be here. So I just thought I'd get that in early. Carry on.
And so I was very much part of that whole androgynous, suede, kind of Bowie obsessed kind of thing. Anyway, one night we're going out and I'm in the mirror in front of my girlfriend and she can't get in the mirror because I'm in the mirror and I'm doing my eyeliner and I'm making sure I look good and all that. And she turns around to me and she goes, "You're the vainest person I've ever met in my entire life." And I turned around and went, "Oh, thanks. That's really," and took it as a massive compliment. I was just like, that's exactly what I'm going for. So I changed my name and didn't go for the Vain. I went for Vain because I thought it sounded more natural.
Yeah.
And then was known as Daniel Vain for over a decade. My wife, when she met me, knew me as Daniel Vain. I used to get, when I worked for this company, they'd put me on aeroplanes with tickets with Daniel Vain, and then I'd turn up with my passport and not be able to get on planes.
Let you on.
Because I was Daniel Price, and I'd have to ring my boss up and go, "Sorry, I'm really Daniel Price, actually." And all my social media, which is now 40, my Twitter's 15 years old, my Instagram, all these things are really old. So they've all still got the Daniel Vain kind of persona attached to them. But my son thinks it's one of the most embarrassing and ludicrous things in the world. But then he thinks me breathing's embarrassing. So, do you know what I mean? It's not, but I saw that question come in and I was like, I've had that song sung to me on numerous occasions. And it probably would be my wrestler walking music, to be fair.
Oh, absolutely. I was just thinking then how many documents you'd have to go through with your names being changed and things like that. And, have you got, when people like people who work in companies and whatnot will change their name for various reasons, legal reasons and whatnot. Have you ever had to change your documents on anything? You mentioned your passport there. I suppose back then it wouldn't have been anywhere near as difficult as it is these days without proving yourself who you are.
No. I mean, it only happened a couple of times because most of the people I work for, they'd met me as this person. Then I'd started working for them and I'd given them my national insurance and they knew I was Daniel Price. But every now and again, something would happen and they'd basically, I had to get on a plane to Madrid one day, and it was a matter of like, you need to go now and get on this plane to do this thing. I was going to the Bernabeu. I was working for Siemens, and I had to go to the Bernabeu because they were sponsoring Real Madrid at the time.
Yeah.
And I kind of lashed it on the train to Stansted to get the first flight I could get. Turned up to the check-in desk and said, "You got some tickets for Daniel Price?" They went, "No." And I went, "Daniel Price, Price? No. Daniel Vane?" And they went, "Oh, yeah. So I just went, "Oh, shit." And it was like literally that embarrassed phone call to my boss in London going, those tickets you bought me, they're kind of worthless, mate. You're going to have to get me some more. And literally waiting, missing that plane and waiting for them to basically send me a whole new bunch of tickets. So, yeah, Mr. Vane is a spectre that will haunt me, I dare say.
Well, you've got the name of this show straight off the bat. It's got to be called Paying the Price, hasn't it? It's absolutely going to be called that. Right, let's get underway with actual questions. Well, that was from Maggie, and obviously she sort of owns this show unofficially. Although we're hoping this season going forward, I know she'll be listening to this, that we would like to get it on the show in some sort of format, maybe sing a few songs, the things she asks us to do every week. So we'll see how that goes. First question is from Foxy. Would you rather, we get this sort of thing as well, and they end up with us talking all night long, but would you rather have ham for a hand that replenishes when you eat, so you never go hungry, or sun cream dispensing from your armpit, so you never get sunburnt? Pete, you can come first, mate. Go
on. I'd have to go for the sun cream just because me as I've already mentioned, them whiskey blue, he'd end up just eating my hand all day, every day. So I think it'd have to be the sun cream, I suppose. Yeah,
that's a far too intelligent answer, I think, mate. To be honest with you, because let's face it,
just
you two guys bald, right?
Yeah, I'm follically challenged as well, so I need to have sun cream on, two hand, if you like, and not a hand made of ham.
Yeah, but look, let's throw some answers in there in terms of, look, when it's like we had that spell this summer. It's pretty much over now, isn't it? But we had that spell this summer where we had like 3 weeks where it was ridiculously hot, sort of like going towards the rest of Europe. It's been in the last couple of months. Now, the sunburn thing there, that'd be really, really huge for us, wouldn't it? Otherwise, we'd be spending a hell of a lot of money in boots or something like that to get it sorted. But then, this is why I think this is a really difficult question to answer. The ham thing, I mean, me personally, I'm on a diet, and I reckon, because I'm eating meat for the diet, go for the health reason, having ham on my hand would just be, I don't have to go and buy any food. I know you get the point where you're sick of it and you don't really want to continuously eat that, but I think that's, look at him laughing his head off. I'm answering this seriously as well. So I'm going to go for ham. Pete, you're going for sun cream. Dan, he's pissing himself here. Dan,
what would you do? Well, right, before you move on, Dave, what would you do with a hammy hand on a beach full of sand? And you wouldn't be able to put on your sun cream on the beach because your hand's made of ham, and ham, the sand would stick to the ham, so you couldn't eat the ham anyway. You'd have seagulls attacking you.
No, but it says it replenishes. Now he needs to get back to us on this. When he says replenishes, does that mean, like, I like instantly? Look, I love honey roast ham from Asda, right? I have it in butties, everything. Love it as it is. Do you know, when you get it out the fridge and start eating bits of it if I'm hungry, because it's relatively healthy, right? So I don't mind that side of things with it. So what you've just said there about getting sand on it, or animals eating it and stuff, like being attacked by seagulls and whatnot. If that happens and he's saying it replenishes, I want to ask him, like, how quickly. Like, are we talking that I get like a slice of it out and throw it at a pigeon? That sort of thing comes back. It gets back out immediately. Sort of like Wolverine in X-Men. People like that, those type of characters. And we've got a brilliant question about cartoon characters coming up in a bit as well. But Dan, you tell us. Dan's just fell apart here, hasn't he already? He's been thinking all this show for an answer to this. You need to help us out here, mate.
So if you have an armpit that dispenses sun cream, right? I mean, I don't need. I'm a shady guy, right? I'm a hat and a shady guy. I don't necessarily need the sun cream. That's what I'm saying.
I'm glad you explained that it was a hat and you're not just a shady person. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, get to know me.
With his two names.
I'm concerned about. I mean, the armpit thing, right? If it's dispense on requirement, then you can kind of, you can give it some of that, can't you? Right?
What, when you make that horrible noise when you put your hand behind them as a kid, it sounds like you farted.
What if it dispenses if you're shocked, surprised, aroused, nervous, whatever, afraid? Then you've got a lot of excess sun, because that's where you sweat from, right?
Yeah.
The ham thing, I'm with you, Dave. I love a bit of ham. But the sand thing, if it's like a salamander, and you can cut a salamander's leg off and it grows back, right? Not like Wolverine thing, but it will grow back a bit. So if it's a case of you lose a finger and eventually you get a little fingery hammy finger come out, right? Like a little Groot that slowly matures. Right? Also, for the sand, if I was, and I'm not going to venture onto sand because I despise the beach, but I'd wear a ham. You
won't need the cream if you despise the beach, really.
Well, that's the thing. I'd probably go for the sort of Michael Jackson ham protected glove. If I was in a situation where the ham would spoil or become soiled.
What's going on here?
I'd probably have to wear like a ham glove. But then you're going to get that thing, aren't you? You know, when you open a packet of ham and it gives out the ham guff.
Yeah.
That little puff of ham guff. If you were wearing a protective ham glove because you'd gone to the seaside or to a corporate event or a driving lesson or something where you wanted to cover your sweaty palms stinking of ham, you put the glove on, everything's fine. You can play billiards. You can wave at a town crier. You can do all that stuff. Then you get home. You get home to your loved one. She says, "Oh, how's your day, darling?" You go, "Oh, I protected the ham all day. Fancy a salad?" And then you whip the glove off, and you're giving her him, her, whoever it is, life partner. You're giving her the full ham guff on the 5 digits, aren't you?
Yeah, but the other thing, like, it depends what way you. I mean, again, we need to ask Foxy about this when he's back on the show, like how particularly wants to get with this. But when you're talking about that in terms of like giving it to friends, giving ham to friends and stuff, I'm sort of, my vision of this is, when you're giving out like a deck of cards and you're putting cards out, you're having a game of poker. Like that.
Yeah.
You're dealing out.
Like...
Yeah, exactly like that. Yeah, just throwing them out like that.
Right, okay.
So okay. I'm thinking that makes things easy because then it's fresh ham as well, isn't it? We do really need to clarify with Foxy about this, but we've thought far too much on ham and sun cream. Never thought I'd say those words in the same sentence. Anyway, back to Maggie, who a similar food question. You can only choose one: egg custard, cream horn. I have to admit I don't know what cream horn is. Chocolate eclair or custard slice. So take it. She's talking about a lot of custard here, but which of the four would you go for, Pete?
Chocolate eclair.
Simple answer, straight down the middle.
Simple answer, chocolate eclair. Yeah.
Can someone tell me what a cream horn is?
I don't know what the second one is. I'll be honest with you.
A cream horn is like a puff pastry. Imagine like a cornet, like an ice cream cornet.
But it looks like, I know.
And it's just crammed with whipped cream.
Yeah.
And sometimes they dip the end in chocolate and put sprinkles on it, but basically it's just a pastry cornet rammed full of cream.
Okay.
Maybe I dismissed that too quickly, but yeah, eclair.
Do you know
chocolate eclair?
It depends what kind of cream. I mean, the way you've said there, it's like squirty cream. Like I just don't.
Yeah, like
go on.
I mean, basically, all of these pastries are cholesterol delivery devices, aren't they?
Certainly won't be getting him in my all meat diet at the moment. Anyway, so he's gone Eclair.
Yeah.
Personally, would go for custard slice because it's actual custard in that. If you get it from a decent one at like Greg's, it's proper Ambrosio custard in there, and it's quite, because they put it so cold, it actually gets quite chewy rather than, not chewy, but you know what I mean, thick and mixed than just putting what you get out of a tin of custard. You wouldn't just pour that into a pastry if you're getting a custard slice. It's actually, it's almost like it's come out the freezer, but obviously it doesn't because it isn't frozen, but it's ice cold. That's right up my sort of street. That so having explained cream horn, Dan, is that what you're going for out of those four?
No, I'm going to go for the custard tart. If it's the little Portuguese jobbies that are like all like caramelized on the top, my son is obsessed. My son is completely obsessed by them, and I actually made some last weekend.
Oh, I've never made any. I do like them. The thing that
bought
puts
some
me
puff
off
pastry. I was convinced I could do it. I've got a little Portuguese cookbook up there.
Yeah.
Bought the puff pastry, made the custard, baked them. You get that little bit of nutmeggy stuff on the top and all that.
Yeah.
And he went, Dad, these aren't bad. So, I mean, that's a win, right?
Yeah.
So I'm
going to get that
go
from a kid who are very particular with stuff like that. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
But the thing about them as well is that I think that, and if you get them fresh, I say fresh, you don't leave them in the fridge for ages because they go quite hard and crusty. If you get them, like the pastry's brilliantly made, if it's nice and soft. The thing that does me in about them that spoils them for me, and I have to bite it off and throw it into a bin or something, is the crust on the top on the outline. If you rip that off for me, I'll leave it as it is, and then it's really nice. I can just throw it in my mouth then. But I can't stand crusts in general at anything, to be honest with you. That's far too particular to know about me with custard slices. Egg custard. But in terms of taste, I'd go along with you there, Dan. I think that's probably the nicest taste of the custard. What else have we got from Margaret? She's asked, I think this one goes to me personally. How hot is the hot seat? Because I've put on the Twitter questions, I'm in Les's hot seat today. I mean, Les would leave hot seats, wouldn't he? I think he's away somewhere where the seat's always hot at the moment. But yeah, hot seat. Are you guys in the hot seat a lot on this show anyway? Aren't you? Certainly more than me these days. I mean, I think personally as a broadcaster and somebody who works in radio and has done for nearly 20 years now, I think sitting in a hot seat, a presenter or even somebody who's a contributor, and firstly, if it's going live, generally, you are at some stage actually shitting yourself regarding certain questions that you think, oh, I don't know if I can say that on the answer. I can't swear on air, for instance, other than what we're doing now. That sort of makes things hot, as in like physically going hot behind me, start sweating. Need to have some. I need to have some sunscreen.
Yeah, sunscreen. Yeah.
But yeah, I would say to Maggie that's pretty hot here. And the thing that made me nervous was I haven't done this as the presenter for a long time, and it's completely different than presenting a normal show that we do on Subs Weekly or whatever. Because talking about Everton's sort of like a second nature. Doing this, trying to entertain people is very much out of my jurisdiction on this.
Yeah,
go on.
Yeah, I get that as well. In terms of if we're talking about Everton, then there's no sort of pressure about doing that other than the obvious of being an Evertonian. But yeah, doing this is a bit different. My anxiety goes through the roof as soon as I hear the words Maggie has said. And then I just, that's the bit where I'm like, oh, here we go. It's great though. I mean, I'm not knocking Maggie, by the way. But yeah, I tend to try to ignore the questions on Twitter as well until we get them. I've said this to you before, Dave. I like to come in like cold. I don't want to have any idea of what we're going to get asked. I always know we're going to get requested to do karaoke, which I will always try and oblige. But
that's exactly the reason we're going to get it on. Look, she's going to get her own mailbag show at some point.
Yes, Maggie.
We do have other people ask questions for this show, by the way. And one guy, and I don't know if you've seen this on the Echo, the picture of this fella who's an EncroChat dealer. And
yeah.
I'll put the picture in this as the actual picture for this pod, this mailbag this week, and this guy's asked LGK on Twitter. Liam has said, in honour of the Encro chat dealers whose Barnet went viral, who are your favourite and worst Everton-related haircuts?
Ooh.
One down, you can go
Do you remember
first.
one? Go on.
Favourite? I absolutely loved Abu Dhabi's hair that made him look like Neptune, the god of the sea.
With the beard.
With the blonde beard and the blonde hair, I mean, that was just insane. So that's my favourite. I mean, there's been some shockers, haven't there? Really, we've had some. Oh, mate. I mean, Anthony Gordon's Claire Balding thing last season was a bit weird, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was getting bad.
All went downhill.
That was a bit weird.
Yeah,
it gave me flashbacks to sort of back in the late 80s, early 90s when every kid at school, and weirdly it's come back, was going for the kind of Jason Donovan curtains with the step, you know, that kind of.
Yeah.
So you had the little step and then you had the perfect Jason Donovan curtains, which weirdly, you go to my son's school now and all the kids are basically bopping around looking like they're just come out of Neighbours. It's weird. Yeah. Either that or they've all got the super noodle haircut. You know, the kind, you know, it's sort of shaved here, fade, then really long on top, but all permed, and it looks like they've had a packet of super noodles dumped on their head.
I do feel sorry for
Abu Dhabi's haircut was incredible.
Yeah. I mean, that's I do feel sorry for kids. I say feel sorry for kids because they've obviously chosen the way their hairs are, but I think most of them that you see, like lads walking out of school, just look absolutely dreadful, really, really bad. Like if I was a parent to those kids, I'd be walking them, I'd be dragging them to the barbers, or I'd have set the clippers myself and sorting it out because some of them. That's why the term Ketwig come along, because they all started looking atrocious with some of it. Everyone said about Tom Davis as well, wouldn't he? The one that I admire most, and this is really simple, but for the obvious reason, if you've seen me lately or in recent years, my hair has just rapidly started to go out, but I have not got the bottle to completely shave it off yet. Because I basically look like Friar Tuck, so it's like quite long around the rim at the back, but like I've got about two heads. It's like Homer Simpson. But if Homer Simpson had like a ring, like a satin ring around the back of his head that had hair, that's what mine is at the moment. And when I let it grow, I'm convinced when I look at the mirror that I can that I can comb the middle of my head. But genuinely, like I said, there's about 3 or 4 hairs left in there. But I'm still determined that I can get it fixed or get something to get everything back in, do you know what I mean? And actually look respectful in this. And it's a lot of the time, and Les, I'll tell you this, that I don't have my camera on here, but I explained to these two guys just before we started, I've actually tried to get the video to work here on my laptop, and I promise you, I'm not lying about this, it's not working right now. Otherwise, I'd happily show you this. I bowed my head so you could see what's going on in there, but it's not pretty anyway. So we probably have to send this out as an 18 rather than a U or a 12. So for that reason, my favourite player is Thomas Gravison, because his looked exactly like mine did when he first came. Again, you know, with that sort of ring around the back, which is relatively looks all right if you had it full time at the top. But he got to a situation where I am at right now, and he just got rid of it all. Didn't give a shit, just got rid of it all, and like everyone's, you know, nobody better than I. That happens to me. The first thing that people are going to say when they see me again is, "What the fuck have you done to your head?" Because you know, you can wait like on your Instagram, or you're pissing about on your phone, you can get all those different things that, like cartoons, that'll change what you look like and all that. And I've tried it looking bald, mate, and I look like I belong in jail. It just doesn't suit me at all. You two perfectly suit it, but do you know the point in that is that if I knew both of you back in the day when you had full headed hair, like you were saying, Dan, about your the culture years, the Bowie years you were after and all that stuff, you weren't completely bald, were you?
No, I mean, you know, I went bald at 20, in my mid-20s, so I've now been bald for nearly as long as I've been alive.
Out of choice, though, isn't it? Out of choice.
You know, and well, no, I basically, I was losing, I've got a big scar here. And when I did that, when I cut my head open, they had to shave my head to stitch me up.
Right, okay.
And one day I looked in the mirror and I could see it. And then a few weeks later, I could see more of it. And I could see more of it. And I could see more of it. And it started going like this. And I've got, as I said, very similar to you. I mean, mine's like that.
Yeah.
And there's these two sort of islands here of growth that are pointless. And I just I went down to a kind of 1 or a 2 in my 20s. And then that became big in it by the time I was 30. And now it's just, I don't really remember having, I know that I had hair because I've seen pictures, but I don't remember that feeling. I don't remember that feeling of doing something in the morning with your hair, or putting your hands in your hair, or brushing it out your eyes, or whatever you do. And I look at pictures of me with hair, and it's not the same person at all. It's my son, when my son first saw a picture of me in my band, my mum showed him, he was like, "Who's that?" And she was like, "That's your dad." And he was like, "No, that's never Dad. That is never him." And I mean, I'm also like 9 stone, but you know, and there's not a tattoo on my body, but just having hair is such a weird concept now. I can't even imagine. You know, I've thought about all the ways of restoring that lustrous locks, but mine went so long ago. A hair transplant would be beyond a miracle, because they've just got nothing. There's no donor area. It's gone.
Well, this is the thing, mate. I'd actually like to have a serious conversation, an extended conversation, just you and me about this, and you, Pete, as well, with your lack of hair. How you took the plunge, really, because I'm getting married in October, so a couple of months away, and when they start taking the photos at the end of it, I mean, I'm not sentimental in the slightest when it comes to this. Like, and we've had some humdinger of an argument about things like this, where she's like, "Oh, we need to get this, we need to get that, all the nice romantic things you meant to get a picture of." And I'm like, "Look, I'll just wear the suit and let's get it done, and I'll go home, get changed, and let's go." We're doing it in Las Vegas, so I just want to get out and explore. We've been there a few times, but she said to me, "Look, you really need to get this sorted now. It's too early before I can go out and get me, any sort of surgery or whatever, go over to Turkey like most people. I can't do that at this stage, nor can I look at any good when it's completely gone bald." And I completely get what you're saying there, Dan, in terms of like, there'll be a certain amount of time that it's going to take to get used to, but eventually I will be used to it, Away from the serious answer there, Pete, give us yours.
The only real hair related player who I think made a major impact was Marouane Fellaini when he turned up.
Yeah,
and he grew out his hair, because at first he didn't have that. His hair wasn't that big, but it kind of grew out over those months. And the funniest thing about it was that it was probably the last time. I mean, us Evertonians, we need a sense of humour. We do, like,
That's why this show exists.
We need to be self-deprecating, don't we? But we tend to take our fashion sense quite seriously when it comes to going the match. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's certain things that don't get done. So when you see thousands of Evertonians wearing the big blue curly wig, there was just something really magical about that. And then the funniest thing ever was when that sort of like that kind of started being a thing. So you'd see all the kids with the blue wigs, and loads of people like fellas in the Gladys Street all wearing these big blue wigs. And then one day he turned up with braids. He'd done cornrows in his hair.
Yeah.
And do you know what the mad thing was? It was the best performance I'd seen from him up till that point. Was when he got those cornrows in his hair. But it was bizarre because he just looked like a completely different person, and weirdly he looked taller.
Yeah, he did. You're right. He looked like a different player, and I think he played like one as well at the time. And then he went back to it, didn't he? And that was when he fucked us off, or when Moyes went and got him. Next question. We'll have a break in a second, but so we'll get through this one in like 5 minutes. This is a belter, an absolute belter, and it's been. Les has given it the big tick as well. He says Andy Bush has said to us, "What one cartoon character would you love to knock clean out with one punch?" I think you could spend the whole show on this. because there are lots of cartoons that we all watched, and I've got a few I've mentioned, and one will probably nick it to the top. But have you thought about this, Dan?
You see, initially, I thought of Lino in Thundercats.
Yeah.
Just because he was just such an annoying knob. Fun. I was up. Maybe I was a bit. I guess I was getting a bit too old for that sort of thing. But yes, that Thundercats thing, man, just got on my wick.
He's got a relation to the hair talk we just had as well, really, hasn't he?
He has actually, hasn't he? Yeah, fantastic, flowing mane. I saw Les, because Les, it was the Scrappy Doo thing, wasn't it? I think Les mentioned Scrappy Doo.
Yeah.
Banana Man. I'd like to deck him because I hate bananas. I absolutely can't stand bananas. The smell of them makes me gag. If I see someone peeling one, I have to leave the room. And it all stems from as a child, I hated bananas. Everybody knew this. It wasn't a surprise to my family. Everybody was fully aware that, because there was even a penicillin when I was a kid that tasted like banana. And I just couldn't. There's something about that smell, the texture, everything about it. Can't deal with it. And then one day, my delightful parents and my sister caught me off guard, held me down, and tried to force a banana in my mouth in what they thought would be a jolly jape. And as I gritted my teeth and my mouth shut to try and stop them, my sister pushed banana through the sort of gap, right, and it kind of pureed under my lips and into my mouth and all that sort of stuff, like a sort of, torturous Play-Doh fun factory. And ever since then, it's just like, mate, no, can't do bananas. So yeah, I'd spark out Banana Man for starters.
Mate, that sounds dreadful. What you've been through, that genuinely sounds like a really bad experience to have when you were a kid. But the whole reason, I really like bananas, in various meals, but obviously on their own as well, and desserts and whatnot. But to not like them, I actually think you haven't experienced what you should have with bananas there, Dan. All because, let's face it, you were bullied by your family to get puree banana. I don't know. We've got to talk about that anyway. We've got a couple of minutes left, so I'll go through mine quite quickly. DuckTales. You seen DuckTales?
Yeah.
Scrooge on DuckTales, and I know he's about an 87-year-old fella with a walking stick, but I'd happily kick that stick out of his hand so he falls over and then start punching his face in, because he's probably like me, to be honest. He's so miserable about so many things with the kids. And I don't know if you've seen the film, The DuckTales. I love the song of the DuckTales. Everyone's heard the song. I'm not going to try and sing it as much as Maggie would love that, but DuckTales, Scrooge. Couldn't have Scrooge at all, because he just goes and on his little walks the plank and then jumps up and down and dives into all the coins of the millions that he owns. It's just like he's showing off to people. He's showing off to like a load of young lads who just want to go out and play.
By the way, do you know how much that would hurt?
Mate, straight into coins as well. That's it. He's diving into metal. In fact, I don't mind that if it hits his head. Do you know what I mean? That I don't even have to punch if he just throws himself into some real coins.
But could you imagine if they... like the way they do like a live action version of everything now? Imagine if they did like a live action DuckTales and he jumps off his board and then just splats onto a big pile of gold.
Some fella dressed as a duck, though, that'd be actually quite funny, wouldn't it? But if you wanted to do what he was doing, surely you'd change it all into notes. Because then it'd be a lot softer to dive into that. Even then, it'd be relatively hard, but not as hard as actual solid metal coins. Go on, Pete. We've got about 90 seconds left on this part. Give us yours quick.
I actually... Is this which cartoon characters would I like to punch?
Yeah.
Right. I don't know.
Go on, have a think about it. I'll pause this for now. As Les says, there's an advert that could be quite anything that you'd have to listen to before you come to the next part of this show. If you are listening to it rather than watching it, that won't happen to you. But when it comes online on YouTube, it could be anything from sex toys to nice things to Titanic. It could be absolutely anything. But
it
don't
depends
let
on your own search history, by the way.
Yeah, it's all about the algorithm.
Depends on your own
that's
search
right.
history.
Yeah, that's right. I'm gonna have to get this white completely. It won't even view.
Clear those cookies.
It won't even let the camera work. That's how bad the things that I look at is. You know what I mean? Anyway, yeah, you'll hear some normal adverts. I promise you won't hear any of that stuff I've just said. I don't know. Les normally does them, so I don't know what's going to come up when I do them. But yeah, please stick with us, and we'll be back. Well, for you in about 2 seconds. Welcome back. We're glad that you've joined us again after seeing whatever advert you were given. We've got Pete, who still is on the cliff, ready to tell us what cartoon he would batter. And it's like watching, I don't know, Brookside back in the day, and it's on a cliff edge before you go to your break to watch all of the adverts and all that. Pete's going to come back with something really special here, aren't you, mate?
Yeah. I was right. I'm not like, I'll be honest, I don't really watch too many cartoons. Can't really remember many that really stood out to me. One I would say is the Flintstones, and I don't know who it was, but in the opening credits to the Flintstones, the way they used to throw the cat out the door, that used to do my head in, and they used to jump back in the window. Was that Fred Flintstone?
Yeah, Fred just volleyed animals.
I'd give him a slap for being horrible to animals. Didn't they used to have like a dinosaur as a dishwasher or something as well? Or
Dino?
That...
Oh no,
yeah.
So Dino was the big, like you look like Barney.
Did Dino get put outside as well at night?
No, I think Dino. So did he live in the garden or something and pop his head up when he was making some steak? Like you said there, I'll be fair to you there, mate. I can't fully remember an episode of the Flintstones.
That sticks with me. That I always thought, you horrible bastard, let the cat and the dino back in the house. Who's the other one as well? Who was that prick in Beauty and the Beast? What was the name of that prick?
He's on a roll now. He's on a roll.
Yeah,
Gaston, is it, or something like that?
Gaston, yeah.
That bell end. Yeah, I couldn't stand him either. he can do one as well, and he wore red as well.
The Beast fills him in at the end, so you're all right there.
Yeah, doesn't he get launched off a building or something?
Yeah,
and he wears red as well. Yeah,
he tries to hit him with a bat, and the Beast just realizes what he is and throw him, and then launches him off the castle. You've come up with some decent answers there, mate, to be fair. Because I thought, well, you didn't have any. Like you said there, Danny was on the roll, wasn't he? What have we got on the list next? We have got... This is a crack at this. It might offend people as well, so I'm going to apologise right in advance of people who listen to us. Do goths exist? Still exist, sorry. Does goths still exist?
Right, well...
my son's one.
Is he really?
Yeah, my son drifts in and out of, because it's difficult because they still call it goth, you know what I mean? But it's not the goth I was. The goth I was.
Well, this is it. Firstly, then you need to describe what in your mind or what in your opinion is a goth. Now, to me,
when I was a goth and I was into Bauhaus and The Cure and stuff,
yeah,
I had the big backcombed jet black hair, can of hairspray every day, the black eyeliner, all black DMs, general sense of misery and torture, black nail varnish, all that. My son has got the more what you'd call the kind of that moment in sort of 90s where it went sort of emo.
Yeah, I was going to say that, yeah.
And it kind of came out the back of emo and disappeared.
And
now it's sort of come back in the guise of a kind of mashup of a bit of emo, a bit of kind of heavy Japanese anime culture and stuff like that. Yeah. So my son, they do this thing where they, at school, when we moved out here to the countryside, and he came home and he was buzzing because he was like, "Oh, it's like wear what you like tomorrow, wear what you like day," you know.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, okay, cool, man. Yeah, you know." So he goes to school and he's got one of my old T-shirts. It's torn to pieces.
Yeah.
He's got a black fake fur kind of waistcoat on, black hair, black eyeliner running down his face.
Yeah.
Spiked choker, spiked things, massive stack black boots, black jeans, and chains hanging off of it, right? And he goes bowling into school looking like Richie Mannix in about sort of 1998.
Brilliant.
And he gets to school, and I get a phone call straight away. So his boots had all spikes on them as well. And I get a phone call, and they're like, "Can you come in?" And I'm like, "Oh God, some kid's lamped in one."
Yeah.
And I go in, and there's a reception. There's all his spikes laid out like some sort of weapons hall at the football. You know what I mean? It's like, so there's a spiked choker, a spiked bracelet. His shoes are there with a spiked.
Maybe that's why he got it to go to Goodison.
And they're like, "You can't send your kid in armed." And I'm like, "Well, he's not going around." He's not going around. He hasn't got a set of nunchucks tucked down his pants. You know what I mean? He's not shooing people all over the place. But anyway, so I had to go home. Get him a pair of trainers. So I go home and get him a pair of trainers. I come back in, and it's playtime, and they're all out in the playground. There's my son looking like something out of a comedy program because he looks like Alice Cooper. And in the playground are 15 kids dressed as Kylian Mbappe, right?
Yeah.
They've all got PSG kits on. They've come in, when the teacher went, come in. Oh, there was a couple of Mo Salahs in there too, which was vastly disappointing.
Yeah.
But
that's why you had the spikes.
But there's a couple, I mean, literally, you've got all these kids that have been told, wear what you like, wear whatever you want, and they've come in their full PSG kit. I mean, boots the lot, full kit wanker thing. Couple of reds in there as well.
Talking about kids as full kit wankers.
and there's my little kid. There's my little lonely kid looking like, something out of like what's that film? There's that film, that rock high school thing with Jack Black or whatever.
School of Rock.
School of Rock, yeah.
School of
what
Rock.
A film that is, by the way.
And he's just standing there, desperately avoiding the football because he hates football with a passion that can't be denied. It's quite remarkable. And there's all these kids running around doing "soo" and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Right? And there's little Alice Cooper in the middle of the playground with his trainers on, and I'm taking home his confiscated weaponry. So they still definitely exist. I saw one today, a couple of days ago in Sudbury, wandering down the high street. Full fishnet jobs, fishnets. The hair looking very warm. So they still definitely exist, but they are a minority now. You're more likely to see the kind of the Japanese influenced sort of anime manga kind of
cosplay, now. Isn't it, these days as well? People
that's it. That. Yeah, you're getting more of that vibe going on.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think even when you go around town, I don't know if you've seen this. I'll try and find this video and send you both and put it on. Put it on Twitter. This video that went viral a few years ago, and it's this lad's put a picture of him and his mum and dad, like when he was virtually a baby, like I don't know, 2 or 3 years old, and the dad has like painted his face, like Sting the wrestler, in his face.
I've seen that. Yeah.
Have you seen it? And he ends up going in it on a fair, one of them things where just you sit on it, it goes round and round and round. Like the waltzers, but he's in the air.
Yeah.
And he's just on it with his like the Undertaker off the wrestling with his cloak on. And he's got a baby next to him who's like 3 years old. It just looked remarkable. It was so funny. I think many people who's listening to us will have remembered that. This guy just didn't give a shit about having a baby or what you look like at all. And fair play to anyone who's like that. But what you've just said there, Dan, I think it's I don't know. I think these days, I don't know whether you think I'm right or wrong here saying this, but do you think it's easier these days for kids to have that, to dress like they do there? Or, because I always imagine it was harder when I'm old, I'm 35 now, and it's funny you say this because we're setting up a bit of reunion for kids. When we were all kids, we're setting up a reunion when we were in secondary school, and we were having a chat about this the other day. Do you think it was easier to be a kid back in the day than it is now? What would you say there in regards to how they dress as well?
Well, when I was at school, I didn't really start dressing how I wanted to until I left.
Yeah.
I had the classic late 80s, early 90s Essex ponytail. You know, all the kids had it. We all had it. Reebok Classics, Essex ponytail, naff jacket, right? Head bag. And then I left school, went to college, completely changed how I wanted to look, went to art college, and bumped into an ex-girlfriend in a petrol station in my local town.
How many have you got here, Dan? You mentioned about 5 of them on the show.
You know what? No, do you know what? I went through a period of being remarkably prolific for a man who looks like me. And she recoiled. She genuinely recoiled. She was just like, "What the hell do you look like?" And I mean, I've spoken on here before. I mean, I got very good at running and very good at losing fights because you didn't look like that in Essex in 1996. It was just not done.
Yeah.
Now there's a bit more flexibility, a bit more open-mindedness.
Yeah.
You know, we moved out here from London where my son could walk around dressed as however he liked and no one batted an eyelid. Out here, he gets a bit of stick, but he's risen above it and he's very philosophical about it. He's very kind of like, well, they don't like it. It doesn't bother me. This is what I do. He probably will have to have a scrap every now and again as he gets a bit older. And
he's got the weaponry, hasn't he?
But he's kitted out. Yeah, he's got his tools. But no, I just, you know, kids have got more of a fluidity to what they wear and what they are these days. There's not the tribalism there was when I was growing up. I had a load of mates who were mods and they were passionate about it. They didn't listen to music beyond 1972 and they all had scooters and Lego Man, Paul Weller haircuts. And, you know, they wouldn't mix with people that listened to rock and roll music or wore jeans. And there were goths and there were punks and, you know, it was more tribal. Whereas now I think kids are more free to just sort of say, oh, I like a bit of that. I like the shoes of that, but I like the hair of that. And I like the music of that. And they don't pigeonhole themselves into one. I mean, I've got friends who are, you know, 45, 46 years old and still go to mod nights every Saturday night and listen to the same 100 records every Saturday night and wear the same clothes with the same hair and don't dance the same dance. And, you know, it's their culture and they're so tribal about it. But kids these days are like, well, I quite like a bit of that, but I don't really like the music, but I like the way they look. And I like, so they pick a mix now. But yeah, I mean, you know, I'm sure Stan will flip flop between many different vibes as we traverse his rich tapestry of his life. But at the moment, he's definitely, I mean, his hair's really long at the moment. His hair's like down to his sort of, you know, just past his shoulders down to his elbows. And he's going through a kind of flares, platforms kind of thing. He looks like he should be in the Black Crows or something at the moment. But anything, you know, we've always been sort of very like, mate, you want to do that? Fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's, you know, and all I say to him every now and again is you do know that if people are looking at you, it's because you've made the decision to do that.
And the thing as well with that is like you've done that. I think I'd respect people more for making the decision that they don't really care what other people think about that. Do you know what I mean? Because that was always the way it was in school for me. Was you had to stick in the party line. You couldn't be liked for looking different. Which I think, like you said there, I think these days it's leaning another way. It's leaning not directly opposite to, oh yeah, I don't look at that lad and think he's an idiot anymore. I don't think the way he dresses, I don't want to go near him and stuff. I actually think people are getting a little bit, you know, well, you're free to do what you want. I think it's a lot to do with homosexuality and things like that and the way things are. People are becoming more, as they should, acceptable of the way other people are. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, to be honest. And, you know, like that. So kids doing what they want to do nowadays certainly wasn't the way when I don't know about you, Pete. Things weren't like that when I was in school, where you probably get shit kicked out of you if you rocked up with a pair of trainers that were a brand of sorts or anything like that. Back in those days, it was hard, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. But you did always have people who had their individual styles and things like that. But yeah, they absolutely did used to get grief. You still see it now. You do still see people getting picked on, if you like, for being different. But I've always had the opinion that I'd always rather be a good person than a well-liked person, if you know what I mean. I'd rather be a good person than someone who just goes along with the crowd. I always think it's easy to just go along with the crowd, isn't it? It's easy to not stand up for what you think and not stand up for other people, which is why I've always tried my best to do that, to try and stick up for people. Yeah, it is. Yeah, one thing I would say though is that if in Liverpool, people, goths aren't as prevalent or as seen, I think closing down Quiggins when Liverpool 1 got built was an absolute travesty.
Yeah.
I know that they sort of relocated to the Barcelona bar, wasn't it? Or the old club Barcelona.
Yeah,
it kind of got relocated to there. But I think so. I haven't been there for years. But my brother used to go there a lot. My brother's always been a bit out there with his fashion and his musical taste. Yeah. So when I was a kid, I used to go in with him all the time to Quiggins, and I used to love going in there. To be honest with you, it was really interesting. It was a shop with actual character and actual individual, sort of layers to it. And obviously the Crazy House as well. I used to go to the Crazy House when I was a kid. Probably the first place that I could get into when I was about 15. They'd let anyone in, and they had like the K3. There was the K1, the K2, and then eventually the K3. And each floor had different types of music. I think stuff like that helped as well, to be honest with you, because when we used to go on these nights out when we were kids, let's say from when I was 15, you'd be going to these places and you would see people, because of the way that the club was laid out. On the bottom floor, you'd have more like the heavy rock, heavy metal sort of thing.
So about the Crazy House,
yeah, Crazy House, yeah. So the bottom floor was always like the sort of, that was almost like your heavy metal and that sort of music. Then it would sort of get a bit more commercial as you went up, if you know what I mean. It's like the K2 would then be like, I don't know, like your sort of poppy sort of ones, and then the K3 was more like Scouse house music, that sort of thing. But what it ended up being was a bit of a melting pot where you'd have like all the different sort of variations of people's styles and musical tastes all in one building. So everyone would just end up mixing together, which actually, looking back at it, was quite nice.
Yeah, absolutely. We've probably gone to a more serious chat than what we wanted to do there, but I think it was absolutely necessary because, life's got to change in a positive direction, and there's not many other things you can say that about, really, is there? Other question we've had, this is a belter. I might take a little bit of thinking here, but Stephen Sheenan has said, what is the best song chant for a below average player? It doesn't have to be an Everton player. It can be for any team. And the one he's come out with here is a belter. Woke up this morning feeling fine with John Joe Kenny on my mind. He says that will take some beating. I think he's absolutely right there. And I'm just trying to think back now. Has anyone got one off the top of their head?
I am Aruna Kone. Nobody I'd rather be.
I've never heard this.
Aruna Kone. I play up front for the FC. I am Aruna Kone. Belted of a tune.
Bring him back.
I know. Just for the sake of, I tell you what, you couldn't do much
just
worse
for that.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Can you think of any more?
I'm trying to think. We've got this thing about, I think I've told you before, we've got this thing we used to call it in the Asioki on the away coaches. So we had to turn every single song into a Umani Ass chant. So now I've got a WhatsApp group which is purely dedicated to Dwight McNeil songs. So there's 3 of us. There's me, my mate John Mack, and a lad called Mick Murphy. And every now and again, like throughout the day, I'll just get a voice note off one of them with a new, like they'll be working, they'll have the radio on, and they'll just send me like a new Dwight McNeil song. So there's about 200 that we've got now. Some of them are great though. The other day, I had the 40-second intro of the Ghostbusters theme tune, and it built up for ages. And then John Mack comes in with, who are you going to call? Dwight McNeil. When you need a goal and it don't look good, who are you going to call? Dwight McNeil.
Oh, mate, that is some heavy lifting. You are really stretching it there. That is some heavy.
Honestly, what was the one I thought of one the other day for what was it? Chimity? Oh, well, there's Chimity is another one as well because you could have like we got Chimity, we got Chimity to score our goals.
Oh, mate. The more respect.
I've got this one as well. This one as well before you move me on, Dave. You ready for this one? We're not going down because we've got Chimity. Because the Blues are boss and the football's pretty. Oh, no. Oh, won't you please take me home? We're not going down because we got Chimity because the football's boss and the Blues are pretty. Oh, won't you please take me home? That's my contribution. I'm done.
Well, you've gone through some decent singing there, so most of the listeners will be loving that. You've got a decent voice as well. To be fair, I don't think many people like that. But there was one I've got, and I shouldn't have remembered this because no one will really remember the player. But I'm clearing my throat to sing this. Do you remember the player Habib Bey? He played for Newcastle for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Vaguely remember him. He's a Villa for a bit as well.
Yeah.
So the song. The Sunday, Monday, Habib Bey. Tuesday, Wednesday, Habib Bey. Thursday, Friday, Habib Bey. Saturday, Habib Bey. Rocking all week with you. The creation of some fans, I think it's outstanding. The thing that I always think about this is, how do you get it going? How do you get other people singing it? Do you just go and ask people around just to start singing something? I've always found that as like, it's probably some sort of study people could do on this. Obviously, the club's traditional songs, we all know them, Zed Cars, but like, you remember when Martinez come in and there's the Brown Shoes songs and all that sort of thing, and the traditional songs that we have are obviously created back in the day. But what I've just sung there ridiculously poorly, and what you sung there in a really decent way there, Pete, that is really creative. What do people just have like an orchestra or something like that? Or do you have like did they send it out on when people have got various magazines? Did they send it out? I'd love to know how they come about.
It's a way coaches. It's a way they. That's. You've got hours to kill, haven't you? And all you need to do is you get a couple of people singing along to it. And the next thing the whole coach is singing it, someone takes a quick video, it's on Twitter. And by the time you get to the ground, people just, it's got to be witty. It's got to be easy to remember. The lyrics have got to be simple. People, I always see, I'm joking around about the Chimity chant, obviously. But you see so many times where people sort of post things about, they've got a suggestion for a song. And then someone will come back with another version, which is far too complicated, that will never, ever catch. And you can tell it won't catch on straight away because you look at it and think, we can't sing in unison the spirit of the blues when it's playing on the speakers. We've got no chance of learning, chapter and verse of a whole chant. So I think the main thing is make it simple, make it catchy, get drunk people singing on the away coaches, and job's done.
Come on, Dan, you've got to have something here, mate.
I will not be able to remove the Habib Bey song from my mind. Literally, every now and again, I think of it, and I just, my little face, so a little smirk starts growing in the corner of my mouth, and I'm like, and I can just hear Sunday, Monday, Habib Bey, and I think that is. That is
not Cheers, isn't it? That's where it was a Cheers.
You can't beat that. That's the sort of thing that, when we had the COVID season, there were no fans, and which was the dream of the football clubs. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Because that's their dream, isn't it? To just sort of have televised football that pumps in millions and millions of pounds, and they don't have to be responsible to anybody. But it is that thing. It's exactly what you're saying. It's that moment of spontaneity and stringing a few lines together that catch onto a lyrical note, or that have the same rhythmic kind of thing. And the minute, there are ones that you hear and you just, they're so simple to deliver, but to actually have that thought process. I mean, that Habib Bey thing, right? We joke about it, but that's stuck with me now. right?
I've got another one. I've got another one for you.
Do you know what you think the better when they're with shit players?
Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, shit players always have better ones. I always find.
Well, I'll be honest. I also run the singing section for the Everton Women's Supporters Club. So we've got an actual like songbook dedicated, and every single player in the entire squad has got like 2 or 3 chants each, and we go through them. Like obviously, I don't need the book because I'm there's me and about 3 others who tend to come up with them. Sarah's one of them, Sarah Alpin.
Yeah.
And we genuinely do just like we go through so many different ones. But one of the ones that I've got stuck in my head at the moment, we signed Martina Piemonte, who's an unbelievable centre forward. She's Italian. We've already got Aurora Gali, who's also Italian. And they're the only 2 Italians in the WSL. So Sarah's sister, Amy, said to me the other day she couldn't get Mambo Italiano out of red, Mambo Italiano. So we had a little play with it. And so we've got Yaya Gali and Martina Piemonte. So it's, hey, Yaya Italiana, Martina Italiana, hey, Yaya Italiana, baller and a scorer and they're playing for the Toffees. Hey, Yaya Italiana. And I swear to you, right, that will get repeated for 25 minutes on the first game of the season. It won't go back.
What was the Yelovich song?
Yella Yelovich.
No, that's it. That's not going on my list. I'm gonna imagine just trying to find a list from various clubs. There must be somewhere that
John Stones, the John Stones chant was brilliant. That was like lightning in a bottle. That one, where after when Chelsea had bid for him, and Martinez said he wasn't for sale. He said money can't buy you like any, can't buy you everything. And it was money can't buy you stones. I love that. I love that chant. I loved how quick it was because
I agree. That's the thing. The pace of which that came about.
Yeah.
It's quite.
We played really. Barnsley. I remember Barnsley. We played Barnsley in the midweek, and then we played Tottenham away. And by the time we got to Tottenham away, the whole end was singing it, and it was it was brilliant.
So we're approaching the end here. Another question: if Finch Farm was a real farm, who would be the rough and ready horse wrangler, and who would be the gentle chicken coop cleaner who just wants to love?
I think Dwight McNeil would look after the animals.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's a cairn, and I think James Tarkovsky would be like I don't know. He'd be the one like doing all the heavy lifting. I think
you can imagine James Tarkovsky with a hoof between his thighs, can't you?
Yeah, with that bit of straw in his
with a hot iron, with a hot iron, putting a shoe on a horse, leather apron, some form of anvil somewhere. You know what I mean? But yeah,
I'd go Mason Holgate for killing animals because he's a prick.
Killing animals?
Yeah. I just think he's a bellend. I reckon, if he was, we talk about ham on your hand here, I reckon he'd want like actual food from the animals and just go and slaughter some or something like that because he looks like a total prick. And I'd tell him to his face. Anyway, I don't know who else, like in a nice question wise, people might want to delete that if they've got the kids around them then. But I'd like to think the Pickford would be happy to walk around the farm 24/7, and in a relatively pleasant way. I could see him riding a horse, but maybe a donkey instead, because I'm not going into the T-Rex hands and all that sort of thing. He's well, him and Moped, they're like the short guys, aren't they? Them two running around with donkeys and all that. I could see them doing that and like stroking them and all that. I'm sure
if you can imagine. I mean, he's probably not long for this club. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But you imagine if they released a picture of Andre Gomez nursing a goat. Tiny bottle, small kid goat like that, and Andre Gomez sort of maybe with a little bit of dirt smudged on his cheek, just a tiny bit of dirt like that, in a checkered shirt, maybe a slightly too many buttons undone.
Yeah,
nursing a kid goat, the Twitter would just implode.
Yeah,
it would just go mental, wouldn't it?
We can imagine if Michael Keane had to milk a cow. I mean, I don't think he'd be able to. I think he would do it, and then when he's coming out with 2 big buckets of it to, like, give people milk in the house, the family, I could honestly see him falling over. He'd fall over and end up in, like, horse shit on the way back, and the family would throw him out and say, "Listen, you've got to go back outside and stay in the shed," until he'd have to go back out there. And when, I don't know how long it takes for a cow to get enough milk in, where you've got to go and get it. What is it? Do you reckon it's daily? Is it? You've got to go and do a cow for milk?
Yeah, it'd be daily, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I still think he'd be useless at that, even if he was doing it for the amount of time he's been with us. Who else am I trying to think as well?
At least it's not as bad as Morpay. Morpay had missed the cow and milked the bull.
Yeah. Other players, they're not anyone that really sticks out as who'd struggle on the farm. In terms of what they do, though, I think Iwobi are doing an efficient job. Who else you think in the midfield? I go on what you said there about McNeil. I could see McNeil being really, really efficient there, but I'm trying to edge away from how efficient he'd be based on the football skills. You made that point there about Gomez, who's people still seem to rate what he looks like rather than his ability as a player. But let's face it, we've done this many times when a player's come to us where we've been like, "This lad's amazing, we need to keep him." And then when he started playing shit, you start to lean towards, "Oh, yeah, but isn't he good looking?" Do you know what I mean? So that's what I'm thinking. Like Pete said, there,
if he looked like Gary Megson, he would have been kicked out of this club 2 years ago.
Gary Megson, my word, Gary Megson got some jobs as well, doesn't he? I don't know. He fucking got some jobs.
I mean, Gomez, he had a half decent season, didn't he, in France, and he'll probably return there. He's not my type. His eyes are a bit too close together.
Who, Gomez?
Yeah, his eyes. If you look at him, his eyes are quite close together. I like to lose myself in the eyes of my men.
It's gone a bit west the end of this show, hasn't it, really? So we'll have that as the last one and leave it there. But hope you've enjoyed it. Everyone listening to slightly different version because Les isn't here. No doubt he'll be back, like I said, around the start of the season. I think Matt Jones is taking up the reins next week. And like I said at the start of the show, he's also presented this a few years ago. But I hope I did justice a little bit for Les. Speaking to these 2 gentlemen here as well, absolutely hilarious, and probably it'll give you a good weekend if you start listening to it over your Friday, Saturday weekend, the week before the season starts as well. Mailbag's always there. Your questions are always there. If yours hasn't been answered in this show, it'll definitely be on the next one. And yeah, keep joining us on the Mailbag. It's also on YouTube as well, as you know, and on the subscription. And we'll speak to you next week.